Basketball is usually a very dynamic sport, but there comes a point in every game when everything comes to a standstill, right here at the foul line for a free throw. It's not a terribly difficult shot. There's nobody guarding you. You've got 10 seconds to aim and shoot. The very best have career averages of around 90%. And that's over the course of thousands of official games. But could that number go up? Today, we're going to look at why averaging 95% from the foul line is almost impossible. To find out what it takes, I shot with one of the most consistent free throw shooters of all time.
Nice, there it is.
There we go. Talked shot science with a dynamicist.
When you run these kinds of simulations, you notice that there's an optimum angle, which is actually the least effort angle.
And spoke with a cognitive scientist about why even the best choke under pressure.
You can perform more poorly than expected precisely because people are watching you or there's something on the line.
The free throw has been the same for decades. It's 15 feet from the line to the basket, which is a standard 10 feet off the ground. The average free throw percentage for the NBA, WNBA, and NCAA hovers around 70%. But there are those players who can sink it time after time, barely ever missing. The very best have career averages of around 90%. This player is one of them. So we're here today with Steve Nash. Steve is obviously a very talented basketball player. I am not, right? You've shot a ball a few times.
I did it for a long time.
Over the course of his career, Nash towed the foul line 3,384 times and sank the ball 3,060 of those times. His career record is the highest of any retired pro at 90.43%. He's going to help us work on our free throw technique and see if we can't get a little better, and also talk with us about what we think the upper limit to free throw accuracy might be.
And I'm going to kick his ass.
Also that. So, got a little ritual here going.
Kicking my ass was not going to be difficult. I'd barely touched a basketball in 20 years, and I was rusty at the line.
Short.
Nash gave me some pointers on how to shoot with my whole body.
Not bad. Okay, let's try a few where you slow down a little bit. You start at the bottom, and you come up and shoot it all in one motion. So your body comes up with the ball, and the ball releases before or at the end of that motion.
Nash showed me his technique for better shooting.
You know, I try to take all the extra movements out of it, right? And it's just one smooth, fluid motion. One motion, yeah? There's no strain, there's no forcing, there's no flicking at the rim. It's a really smooth stroke, if that makes sense, yeah?
So this is going to sound like a dumb question, but why can't people hit free throws all the time?
For exactly the reasons that you know, the best free throw shooters make them. You know, they probably don't have the best technique. They probably don't take the most pride in it or practice it as diligently as they should. And I think, and then lastly, some people emotionally, especially if you haven't done the work, it's going to affect your technique more, right?
One of the reasons Nash was so successful was that he did the work, and he took pride in the shot, and he practiced a lot.
When I was younger, I would shoot a lot of them. When I got older, it was just refining. Sometimes it would be like 10 before practice, 10 after practice, 10 before the game, you know, or maybe it's just a couple, and just to refine it, get in that moment.
Reproducibility is key. To demonstrate why, Nash and I each shot a series of free throws. You can see here Nash had no problem sinking ball after ball after ball. I, on the other hand, was throwing up bricks. Lots of them. Nash had given me great pointers on how to perfect my technique, but I wanted to know if the free throw could be scienced into submission.
Thanks for joining us.
So I called up Larry Silverberg.
I'm a professor here at NC State. I'm a dynamicist. That means I study motion. And I spend a lot of my time, probably more time than I really should, studying the motion of basketball.
Silverberg has written a number of papers on the physics of the free throw. To him, it's an elegant problem.
It's a beautiful experiment. No, but you're not moving. You just walk up to the line. It's the same for every single player. So you can actually look at the shot very scientifically.
Using both feet.
What he's found is that players like Nash incorporate 4 key parameters into their free throw.
First and foremost is the initial velocity of the ball. The second thing is you have to line up the ball. That ball's got to go directly toward the center of the hoop.
That second factor is called side angle. You want to keep it as small as possible to make the ball go straight. The third parameter is a bit of backspin.
The backspin is very important. It makes the ball land on the basket a little bit softer and more of a chance of the ball going in.
And then there's the ball's arc, which depends on your release angle.
When you run these kinds of simulations, you notice that there's an optimum angle, which is actually the least effort angle. That tends to be a release angle of about, depending on your height, of anywhere between 45, 46, and 53 degrees.
So not many players could tell you what their release angle is, but that may be changing. While Nash and I shot, we used an app he's helped develop called Home Court, which uses artificial intelligence to track and analyze basketball shots. The app just released a new feature that measures not only your makes and misses at the line, but other metrics like release angle.
Our app is called Home Court AI. It's a piece of technology, artificial intelligence, that can track not only your body movement, but also the flight of your ball, makes, misses, arc, release time, angle, all those things. So you were 9 of 30, which is 30%. Your best streak was 2 in a row. It's really hard to be a great free throw shooter if you we got to get you 3, 4, 5, get some momentum, some confidence.
How did Nash do?
Accuracy, 100%, 34 to 34. Best streak was 34. Release.
Your release angle range was only 4 degrees.
Yeah, so
that means that the biggest difference you ever saw in your release angle was just 4 degrees.
Right.
And mine was 20.
Yeah, so that tells a lot, right? Obviously, so this is such a great tool. Makes and misses is only one part of the equation, but if I can see the variance in your release angle is wild,
right?
We have a problem. If I can see that it's tightening up, but you're not necessarily getting better, I still feel positive, there's a breakthrough coming.
Now, before Nash had arrived, I'd actually shot just over 50%. But shooting with one of the world's greatest point guards is a little intimidating. As soon as he showed up, my percentage dropped by 20%.
I talk about it as paralysis by analysis. You start paying too much to the details of what you're doing in a way that's counterproductive.
That's Sion Bylock.
I'm a cognitive scientist, and I'm president of Barnard College at Columbia University, and I am an expert in why we choke under pressure and what to do about it.
Pressure can affect the pros, too. Nash took well over 100 free throws with us. He said that was more than he'd taken since he retired in 2015. And of those shots, he missed 2.
It's been a while for me too, but
That's greater than 98% accuracy. And yet, over the course of his career, he averaged closer to 90%. And that's because performing in a game is way different from performing in practice.
What we often forget is that it's important to close this gap between training and competition. And what I mean by that is practicing under the kinds of conditions you're going to perform under. I think we've all had the experience where we can hit that shot when no one's watching, or 50% of our free throws when no one's there. But when all eyes are on us, we fumble. And so the idea is to get used to how we're going to feel, how our body's going to react in that moment. If we're going to have important people come to an event, like our parents watching us play basketball, make sure that they're there during practice at some point too, so we're not all of a sudden entering a new situation when it matters most.
The free throw, if you've done all your homework and you have the right technique, it becomes an ability to believe and to cut out all the distractions and put yourself back on the practice court in the heart of a big moment.
To make the most of his shot, Nash was always practicing, even during games.
Before the referee gave me the ball, I would take 2, if I could, practice shots without the ball. That's like a rehearsal.
Yeah.
Right? So I just got 2 practice shots in before I shot the ball, right? I think sports psychologists say now that even better than visualization is actual physical recreation, even without the ball.
Clearly I needed to practice, so I took home court with me to my local court and shot, and shot, and shot. Could I improve? Could an amateur like me ever achieve NBA level accuracy? Well, this guy has.
All it takes to become good is 3 things: knowledge, practice, and time.
This is Bob Fisher.
I'm like a million guys. I played high school basketball. I played recreationally till I was 44 and quit because young guys like you just got too quick.
Except that about 10 years ago, Fisher really started practicing free throws.
And in September of '09, I went to the gym and started going to the gym every day. After a month, I noticed I was getting considerably better. And then I started making 100 every day in a row. And then I switched over to speed. And 4 months later, January 10th, I set my first record, most in a minute.
Today, he has 25 Guinness World Records.
Most in 30 seconds with 33, most in a minute with 52, most in 2 minutes with 92, most in 10 minutes with 448.
You get the idea. Fisher, a longtime coach, has also written a book and made an instructional video on how to shoot more accurately.
If you focus on the high point of the ball and apply force, control the high point of the ball in relationship to the center of the basket, it's going to go straight.
Fisher is no NBA legend, but his free throw percentage?
I made 99 out of 100.
So if a guy like Fisher can sink the ball 99% of the time, I should be able to put it in the basket a little more often, right? Now might be a good time to mention that there's another way to shoot from the line, and that's underhanded. One of the best practitioners of this technique was Rick Barry. Over the course of his career, he averaged 89.31% from the line.
Rick Barry is obviously one of our all-time great players and was unbelievable from the foul line underhand. He swears that it's wiser to shoot him underhand.
Let's just say it has its trade-offs.
And what happens in the underhand shot is the body motion is very, very smooth. It's inherently smooth. There's just a single motion from down low all the way up high that can be committed to memory, I think, pretty easily. So it's easy to perfect. On the other hand, you do have a disadvantage because you're releasing the ball low. So you have this trade-off between releasing the ball low and having smooth body motion. The smooth body motion means that you can become much more consistent at it.
I think there's something about the ball starting down here and ending up there that feels more awkward than finishing above your head. Right. But I could see how it would limit some of the kind of extraneous and unnecessary movements that creep in from time to time.
I'm going to stick with the overhand. In a week of shooting with home court, tracking and analyzing my shots, I managed to increase my free throw percentage from around 30% to 75%. And my release angle went from varying by more than 20 degrees to varying by less than 8. So I got better. But what about the pros? With better practice and preparation, could the pros edge the record even higher? It turns out Steph Curry recently surpassed Nash's record, but only by a couple hundredths of a percent.
The NBA in particular is an incredible demand, right? Like you're traveling, changing time zones, playing, 3 games a week. You may be carrying an injury. So to corral all these factors is why we don't see someone shooting high 90s or 100%. Right. Now, is there going to be some outlier that comes along? Why not? It's actually remarkable to me that Steph isn't more of an outlier.
The real outlier is Elena Delle Donne, who plays for the WNBA's Washington Mystics. Her career free throw percentage is a monstrous 93.4%. But remember, neither she nor Curry has retired yet, so those records aren't set in stone.
So many games are decided at the free throw line today. It's very possible that as we become more sophisticated, more technological, that a shift could take place where some coaches might start to actually pay attention to the free throw.
But until that happens, remember that what players like Nash do at the line, time after time after time, is already almost impossible.
We good?